Everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Building Vibrant Communities. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. A copy of today's presentation is available in your handout dropdown on your Learn dashboard on the event page. You can access that and follow along through the presentation, or it is available for you after the fact as well for follow-up notes and reference material. A copy of this presentation will be recorded and placed on your dashboard as well, so you can go back and review the video at any time if you want to reference for certain information in certain sections of the presentation. If you have questions as we go through today's presentation, you can type them into the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question directly of our presenter. Our presenter today is Olivia Perfetti, and Olivia is with the Allegheny County Conservation District. Good afternoon, Olivia. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
You can go ahead and begin your presentation.
Okay, sounds good. Well, good afternoon. Thanks again for being here and for having me. I'm Olivia Perfetti. I'm the Municipal Engagement Manager for Allegheny County Conservation District, or ACCD, and today I'm presenting on tools for protecting natural resources at the municipal level. So today I'll start with some more information about ACCD and the DEP Environmental Education Program, which supported the development of this material. Then I'll cover a variety of topics related to natural resources, including protecting sensitive habitats, growing tree canopy, stormwater control considerations, resilient space strategies, and then the Sustainable Pennsylvania certification process. And we'll have time at the end for a Q&A as well. So a bit more about ACCD. We work to preserve, protect, and restore Allegheny County's natural resources. We are an instrumentality of the state, so there are conservation districts in every Pennsylvania county except for Philadelphia, but one is also in progress there. We have regulatory authority to operate Chapter 102, which is erosion and sediment control, and Chapter 105, dam safety and waterway management, as well as livestock compliance and regulations. In addition to our regulatory work, we have a variety of programs. So we work with municipalities to develop watershed plans and implement stormwater projects and green infrastructure in priority areas. We assist farmers in implementing best management practices on their land and urban growers with accessing resources such as soil testing. Our dirt, gravel, and low volume road program provides grants for improvements to qualifying roads that are impacting water quality. And finally, we help farmers place permanent conservation easements on farmland, ensuring the protection of our agricultural lands for generations to come. We're offering this presentation today because we were able to secure a grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection's Environmental Education Grants Program. Through the grant, we led a 5-part workshop series with our partners, Tree Pittsburgh, Allegheny Land Trust, Sustainable Pittsburgh, and Green Building Alliance. So today I am summarizing the content of these 5 workshops, focusing specifically on actions municipalities can take to protect natural resources. Our partners really have a wide breadth of expertise, so it may feel like I'm jumping around a lot. Just know that I will absolutely have some takeaways at the end. And we just encourage you to start by focusing on 1 or 2 of these actions that feels most timely and relevant to your area. So starting with the first of the 5 workshop topics, this is protecting sensitive habitats, a workshop that we did with our partner, Allegheny Land Trust. So a lot of different areas can fall under the definition of a sensitive habitat. It includes areas such as floodplains, steep slopes, biologically diverse areas, wetlands, old growth forests, and riparian areas. For the most part, these areas provide critical habitat to important flora and fauna, in many cases threatened or endangered species. They can also be sensitive for other reasons like topography or the risk that they may pose to humans, like in the case of steep slopes. There are a variety of tools for evaluating sites and understanding whether they are sensitive in any way. Many of these are listed here, but rather than going through each one, I just want to show one example. So on the left, you can see the Pennsylvania Wildlife Action Plan Conservation Opportunity Area tool. We are looking at the fork of Bain Creek in Washington County, and on the left panel, I selected the core habitat designation for natural heritage areas. You can see that the area in purple is marked as a sensitive habitat. So it reads in the pop-out that the fields and forest patches along a stream corridor in this area support a sensitive species of concern. And the pop-out includes a set of other information, like a significance rating and whether the site meets certain other designations. So the species isn't public, just, in order to prevent illegal hunting activities. But you can imagine this information and tools like this can play a really critical role in municipal planning processes, or the review of development permits by groups like environmental advisory councils or planning commissions. So it's definitely worth checking out some of these tools. Working with land trusts is another great way to protect sensitive habitats. When working with the land trust, there are two main types of conservation. There's fee title acquisition and then conservation easements. The key difference here is that in fee title acquisition, the land trust acquires and owns the land, whereas in a conservation easement, the property owner retains the land but donates some or all rights to the land trust for protection. There are also some differences in management, with land trusts typically creating a management plan in fee title acquisition and just having more intensive monitoring. And then fee title acquisition, also usually allows the land to remain publicly accessible. In addition to working with land trusts, there are several other options for conserving land through the state, aside from working with land trusts. So depending on the needs and the species of concern, you might consider seeking wild plant sanctuary status, the natural areas designation or wild areas designation, which are all available through the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, or DCNR. Those last two designations are really meant for areas of unique scenic, geologic, or ecological value. And they usually have to be maintained in a natural condition by allowing physical and biological processes to operate without direct human intervention. The Department of Environmental Protection, or DEP, also offers programs for brownfield redevelopment and abandoned mine reclamation, taking care of, severely polluted sites. And then finally, you may not think of farmland as sensitive habitat, but it is absolutely worth protecting for the sake of having a healthy food system. So you can conserve farmland by establishing agriculture security areas. That's something ACCD can assist with, which protects our farms and farmland from non-agricultural uses. And you can also purchase conservation easements from farmers. So moving right along to the next topic, the second one is focused on growing tree canopy, which we worked on with our partner, Tree Pittsburgh. This topic is so important because trees really do provide countless benefits for communities. Research has shown that when trees are densely planted on roadsides, communities downwind can see as much as a 30% reduction in pollutants. Buildings surrounded by trees can see a reduction in energy demand of as much as 10%. And some studies have shown even more, which lowers energy bills. Trees can also be a physical barrier to noise and light pollution, as well as provide habitat for wildlife, including essential pollinators. Some studies have shown an association between a certain number of trees in a community and improved mental and physical health of residents. There is also research showing an association between trees and neighborhood safety, as well as property values. And finally, trees play a critical role in managing stormwater. They collectively absorb, on average, 15 to 27% of the annual rainfall in urban areas. So this map shows Allegheny County, which is where I'm based. Allegheny County is losing about 2% of its tree canopy every 5 years, based on data from Tree Pittsburgh and Davie Resource Group. That may not sound like a lot, but that's the equivalent of more than 3,000 football fields worth of canopy lost over that 5-year period. And as you can see in the map, some parts of the county experienced as much as a 11% loss over that same period, which poses a real risk for residents in terms of their pollution burden, heat risk, and flooding and landslide risk. I'll say too, if you're joining from outside of Allegheny County, you may be able to find similar data for your area. I may be able to help you with that as well. And I encourage you to do that because this trend is really occurring nationwide and it's important to keep tabs on it. So there are really countless ways to grow, improve, and protect tree canopy, but given the municipal audience, I wanted to focus on shade tree ordinances and specifically the role of a shade tree commission. Having a tree protection ordinance, and better yet, a commission, is really an essential component of having healthy, protected trees in your municipality. But just having the bare bones of an ordinance often isn't enough, and we would encourage you to consider if there are ways to strengthen your ordinance. If you don't have a shade tree commission, forming one can add capacity to tree planting and maintenance. So the core responsibilities of the commission are to manage existing trees in public spaces, which includes activities like conducting a tree inventory, having a proactive pruning schedule, removing dead, dying, or hazardous trees, and coordinating with utilities. Commissions can also plant new trees in public spaces. It really helps to have a species list with native species to ensure that we aren't planting invasives. You can, identify suitable locations, ideally with, working with a planning commission if possible. And then, pursuing grants to fund the work. It's really important. Commissions can also have the power to review and comment on development plans and check in on construction. That's not always the case, but it is an authority that can be delegated to shade tree commissions. The ordinance, really should restrict harmful activities such as spraying, unauthorized root cutting, or tree topping, which are really harmful to trees. And it can be the responsibility of the commission to enforce those regulations. And then finally, the commission can engage community through public education, or even through the purchase of easements to manage trees in private areas, especially if they're of public concern. There is quite a bit of support available for tree planting and maintenance really across the state. If you're in Allegheny County, please reach out to me and I can connect you with the appropriate member of the Pittsburgh Canopy Alliance. In Western Pennsylvania more broadly, the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy's Tree Vitalize program is a great resource for street tree planting. You can see where their tree plantings have occurred in that map on the left there. Statewide, there are other programs through the Pennsylvania Urban and Community Forestry Department, as well as through the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources C2P2 program. And so all these programs offer various things like site preparation, tree planting, tree maintenance, maintenance training, and other technical assistance, oftentimes for free. So please check some of those opportunities out if you're looking for assistance with managing your municipal forest. Moving along to the third topic, this is focused on stormwater control considerations, and this is a workshop that ACCD hosted ourselves. Wanted to start with a refresher on stormwater control measures, also known as SCMs. So these are if I refer to SCMs, this is what I'm talking about. These are designed to manage stormwater runoff and mitigate the effects of development on local water quality. They're often a required component of development permits. And there are lots of types of SCMs, but some common examples include rain gardens, detention basins, and things like water quality inserts in the built environment. So as I mentioned earlier, ACCD reviews applications for development through the Chapter 102 Erosion and Sediment Control Program. And using these two different data sets that you can see on the slide here, we were able to map out any implemented stormwater controls that were associated with those permits between 2020 and 2023. Just a note, these do not include smaller projects or Public Utility Commission regulated utilities or stormwater control measures that were like required by local ordinance, smaller projects again. But there's a lot of data here, and on the next slide, you can see in this map the number of stormwater controls for different areas throughout Allegheny County. And if you were to zoom in, you could see these controls in finer detail as well. This just provides a general sense of what's out there and could have a variety of applications. So it could be used to analyze local development and stormwater management trends, identify areas without many stormwater control measures in place, aid with municipal staff trainings. It could even be shared with MS4 staff to aid in scheduling routine inspections, since of course, maintenance of stormwater control measures is really important. And I will say too, if you live outside of Allegheny County, you may be able to do a similar analysis working with your local conservation district or another partner, and we'd be happy to share our methodology for doing that if that's of interest for other areas of the state. So finally, for this section, in addition to implementing stormwater controls and ensuring their proper maintenance, there are a number of ways you can strengthen your municipal stormwater ordinance in order to reduce runoff and improve water quality. So Act 167 currently requires a riparian buffer area of 35 feet on each side of a stream. However, experts suggest a 100-foot buffer, which supports most of the documented ecological functions of forested buffers. So any increase in buffer width you can do is a step towards greater ecological protection. And then next, in the design of stormwater control measures, in terms of their sizing and other factors, you need to account for the amount of rainfall you anticipate happening over a 24-hour period for different storm levels, like 100-year storms, 10-year storms, so forth. So to account for the increased rain we're seeing in Pennsylvania, we suggest using the upper 90% confidence interval for storms from NOAA's Atlas 14. This is being included in the new PA Stormwater Manual for larger developments, but you can, voluntarily adjust that in the meantime for smaller developments and just kind of get a head start on that improvement. Next, if certain areas of your municipality face flooding, stream erosion, or water quality issues, you can designate them as special districts, which just have stricter stormwater controls in order to ease problem areas. So the city of Pittsburgh does this and could absolutely be used as an example. And then finally, ordinances encouraging pre-treatment in the form of forebays or water quality structures can reduce the need to service entire basins or stormwater control measures. That just improves longevity, also ease of maintenance, not to mention improving water quality as at another sort of step in the process of managing stormwater. That was stormwater considerations, and next step we're on resilient space strategies, which was a workshop we did with Green Building Alliance. What we mean by resilient space strategies is really looking at the built environment and seeing how our indoor areas can be more sustainable and built to better weather the effects of, more frequent storms and extreme weather. So I'm going to touch on three main categories of mitigation and adaptation strategies for municipal buildings. By mitigation and adaptation, we really mean reducing the risks of extreme weather and also adapting to those risks so that they cause less harm. So in terms of energy and carbon, performing regular energy audits on buildings can save money, improve comfort, and reduce your environmental impact. So again, just kind of understanding how much energy is being used and seeing trends over time, addressing any inefficiencies. This next one may seem obvious, but prioritizing and planning for capital improvements, such as installing new HVAC systems, replacing roofs and windows. But doing that at or near the end of life of existing equipment can really improve efficiency. In many cases, we see low efficiency and higher pollution when equipment is at the end of its life. So planning for that is important. And then, of course, considering renewable energy. So solar, wind, geothermal energy are not only cleaner sources of energy than coal and gas in terms of, generating way less air and climate pollution. They can also improve resilience to disruptions in the energy grid. So if there's a big storm, the main grid goes out, having a renewable energy system, especially if paired with battery storage, can help keep the facility running for longer before power is restored, or even indefinitely. So in this photo, you can see the Forest Hills Municipal Building, which has a set of rooftop solar arrays. In terms of access, this one may also seem obvious, but it's important to provide access to clean air and water. So indoors, that can mean proper filtration and ventilation, as well as efficient appliances. Outdoors, that can mean nature-based solutions such as rain gardens or even green roofs, like we discussed earlier. And then facilitating transportation access is a big one as well. You may not think this is really under your control as a building owner, but there are little things you can do to make it easier for folks to walk and bike to your locations. That includes things like having secure bike racks available and having good lighting on the sides of your building to make people feel safer if they're at, for example, a nearby bus stop. In terms of products and materials, environmental product declarations are a great tool that allow consumers to just make informed choices about the products that we buy. These declarations are standardized documents that communicate the environmental impacts of the product across its entire life cycle. A great first step is purchasing materials that will maintain their value over time and also can be repaired if broken or repurposed at the end of their lives. So this photo shows the conference room at the Phipps Center for Sustainable Landscapes. In that building, which has one of the highest green building certifications in the nation, all of the wood furniture is either reclaimed and or certified by the Forest Stewardship Council. And then all of the other materials have high recycled content, they're very durable, and they're just expected to last a long time. And as you may know, these products could have a higher upfront cost, but they can really save money in the long term because you don't have to replace them as often, if at all, or you're able to repair them instead of replacing them. So finally, in this section, here are a few examples of ways to promote these practices through local ordinances, and these are ordinances that have been developed by other municipalities in the state. So first, the building benchmarking ordinance requires owners of non-residential buildings over 50,000 square feet to annually report energy and water use, allowing these larger buildings to just identify trends in energy and water use over time, and also places where efficiency could be improved. The Net Zero Ready Ordinance requires all new or renovated municipal buildings to be net zero energy ready. So in other words, they obtain all the energy they need through renewable energy sources. They have very low emissions, and that begins with certain energy efficiency measures. And then finally, local climate action plans are a great way to plan for and undertake many of these actions more comprehensively. So the PA, Department of Environmental Protection, or DEP, has a program that has trained more than 64 municipalities and organizations in climate change planning since it began, which has led to 27 finalized climate action plans. So we definitely encourage you to consider working with the DEP to develop your own climate action plan. If you haven't already, the beauty of these is that you really drive the planning yourself, and these can vary a lot depending on the municipality and what is needed in your own specific community. So we're at the fifth and final topic of the webinar, which is the Sustainable Pennsylvania Certification Program. And that's a program run by an organization called Sustainable Pittsburgh. So we worked with them to discover this content. To just introduce the program, it's free, it's voluntary, and it can be completed online. It's meant to assess, but also celebrate the sustainability of local government operations. And by doing so, it creates pathways for municipalities to optimize operations by improving efficiency. It also fosters opportunities for residents and bolsters the resilience of communities to extreme weather. But so far, it's been earned by at least 138 municipalities across the Commonwealth, and it's possible that number has even grown since I last got those numbers from our partners. So in the certification process, there are required actions, and then there are voluntary actions that allow municipalities to gain enough points needed to kind of level up. So you can see in this chart here, the first requirement to earn bronze certification is to commit to passing the Sustainable Pennsylvania Resolution. Then to level up, a municipality would need to form a sustainability team and enact a diversity and inclusion written hiring policy, in addition to gaining a certain number of points through other sustainability projects, which are up to each municipality. These can be things like tree planting, green infrastructure projects, and so forth, depending on what specific challenges the locality is facing. And then you can see there are more requirements for gold and platinum certification. So to give just one example of what one of those higher level requirements looks like, energy use tracking just involves using the EPA's free Energy Star Portfolio Manager tool to upload building energy consumption data and see trends over time. So at this stage of the process, the focus is just understanding what energy use looks like in municipally owned buildings and what the trends have been. Then in the highest level, the platinum level, is where we see actual reductions in energy use and greenhouse gases, which of course cause climate change. So sort of like a step-by-step process, which gets a little bit more challenging over time, but is designed to make it easy for municipalities to just get involved with the process in the first place and go from there. A really essential part of this process is forming strong multi-departmental sustainability teams. So the role of these teams is to gather information, lead activities, and drive impact. Internally, these teams often include members of environmental advisory councils, board members, staff across departments like finance, HR, marketing, municipal managers, operations, as well as residents. And externally, it can also be helpful to involve other municipalities through coalitions like councils of government, which can allow for more regional planning and collaboration. They're just a few examples of funding sources that have been used by municipalities in the past who have achieved some level of the Sustainable PA certification. So the PA Small Water and Sewer Program can fund projects costing between $30,000 and $500,000. The Flood Mitigation Program also funds flood mitigation projects, and the Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program can fund improvements to parks, recreational areas, greenways, and trails. I will say this is just a sampling. There are many more out there, including some through the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, or DCNR, as well as the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, that aren't listed here. And I would definitely encourage folks to check out the website for the Commonwealth grant programs. I can drop that link in the chat in a moment. But if you need assistance finding grants for sustainability projects, please feel free to reach out. We may be able to help, or at least we could connect you to another organization with expertise in grant finding and grant applications. So we are wrapping up here, but I just wanted to include some takeaways since that was a lot of content. We understand that these actions are no small feat, and no one municipality can be expected to do all of this at once in a short period of time. So we suggest just picking 1 or 2 actionable next steps for your municipality and then building from that in the future. So these can be things like strengthening your municipal stormwater ordinance, implementing or improving maintenance for stormwater control measures in your area, developing a shade tree ordinance or a shade tree commission, working with partners to plant trees in public areas, identifying sensitive habitats and pursuing protection options, for example, through a land trust, beginning the Sustainable Pennsylvania certification process, implementing green building standards or projects, and finally developing a climate action plan, net zero ready ordinance, or another ordinance meant to improve resiliency to extreme weather. So again, not an exhaustive list, but includes many of the actions I covered today. And really any of these could lead to real tangible benefits in your community. So just want to close by saying thank you. Special thanks to PSATS for hosting us, folks who are participating today. And we also really appreciate the support and input of the following partners. So the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection's Environmental Education Grant Program, which again funded this work and the workshop series, Allegheny Land Trust, Green Building Alliance, Tree Pittsburgh, Sustainable Pittsburgh for partnering with us on the workshops as well. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, concerns, comments. Really love to hear from you. Here's my contact information. You can reach me by email or by phone. And that's it. Thanks so much.
Olivia, thanks so much. And thank you for providing your contact information, which will be on the last page of the handout. So if anyone has any questions moving forward, please feel free to reach out to Olivia. As I had stated, this information is posted on your Learn at PSATS dashboard on the event page, so you can go back and reference this information at any time. Thank you so much for providing this information to our members, Olivia, and for everyone joining us today. Have a great afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.